So I've come to the end of that round of increases that I've done. So that was when I did 1, 2, 3 single crochets increase. So another way of counting is if you look at each increase, I've got 1, 2, 3 and an increase, that's 5, and 5 times 12 is 60. So I now have 60 stitches on my hook, on my project. And just doing that extra round, I'm now up to over 5 inches. So I could stop here and then continue with my hat, which I might just show you for example. But say if you needed it another inch or two, we would one, two, three, join to the top of the chain 3 here under the V. So just tighten that up. 1, 2, 3. That was my first double crochet of my chain 3. If I wanted to make it bigger, we would start the same 1, 2, 3, and I would do 1, 2, 3, which is 4 stitches because that's counter stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, that was confusing. And there's the V, the extra double crochet into that stitch from the row before that increase. So I've done 1 stitch into where that one was. 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches now, and increase. And I would just do that all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's the second extra stitch I did in that row, and I'm going to put 2 in there. So in total I'm going to have 6 stitches per set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I would continue that all the way around. But just to show you how you continue with your beanie when you finish doing what's called your increase rounds to make that wider, the circumference there wider, I'm going to show you how we continue. And this is easy. It's just doing double crochets all the way around. So I've chained up 3. Now I'm being a bit slack here and I should be showing you 1, 2, 3. That's my chain up 3, and that's where I'm going to go to slip stitch to join. And this is my second stitch. And I'm just going to do 1 double crochet. All the way around. So remember, there's our stitch. You turn it to the side, you can always see the V's. And because even this is 8 ply, it's a sort of a bit loose using a 5mm crochet hook. So you can see quite clearly there's your stitch there and there's that little bit of yarn. We're not going to go under there. You could, it will just give you a little bit of a different look. But when we're talking about going into the stitch, we mean directly under where those V's are, and make sure it's between where that little bit of yarn is and where the V is. So that's all you do. So my stitch count should be the same for every row now. And check at the end of your row, because if you've got 1 less or 1 too many, it means that you've accidentally skipped over a stitch. If you're missing you know, your numbers are a bit out and you'll have a bit of a gaping hole there, so you've missed a stitch. Or you could have actually accidentally gone back into the same stitch from the previous row and done a little increase that you didn't mean to. So just take your time, look at your stitches where they are. Again, it's important that you're using a yarn that you can see your stitches. It's not teeny weeny little yarn that you need a 2mm hook for, and you need to do 20 rounds of increases just to get to the same diameter as, say, if you're using a bigger hook. And if you're using a bigger yarn and a bigger hook, the same thing. You might need to do a few more stitches in your very beginning round, which is here, because otherwise they'd bunch up. If you got really chunky yarn, this would bunch up. Now I'm looking at that thinking that is a bit bunched up because I didn't count the first chain 3. So, you know, that's the trial and error of doing things. It might be okay once I sew that in, I'll pull it together. All right, so I'm just going to finish this round and I'll see you when you get back to the beginning. So I've just completed the first round of 60 double crochets after I'm finishing my increase rounds, and I'm about to join, and you can see it's going to start curling up, and that's okay. It will just it won't keep curling on inwards unless you have less stitches, and you can actually do a few rows like that, and then if you want it wider, you can start your increase rounds again from where you left off. So my last increase round was 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 increase. So if I wanted to do another increase round, I would do 4 and then an increase. So again, that's sort of getting a bit fancy by changing the number of stitches as you go in and out, but that's how you know if you've got more stitches each round. If you've added another random stitch in there, it won't be 60. So I've counted that at 60. There's my beginning chain 3. 1 2 3. I'll take that out. And we go in here. And again, if you can't get your 2 hooks under that V to pull through and you're getting really frustrated, one, two, three, just stick your hook into that stitch anywhere. It's okay. It'll work, especially for a beginner. So again, with the little chart and the dimensions, so this was for a 1-year-old, 5, because I've only done 5 inches as my increase. 5 or 6 inches. That will remain the same now as we go. So to continue, all you do is chain up 3. It counts as your first double crochet. Go into the next stitch, which is here. Find that little V, and then off you go. And 1 2 3, that was my chain 3. Pop your stitch marker in just so you know where you are at the end of the row. 2, you can start recognize that without your stitch marker, but it's a good point. You can leave that in and then use that to count your stitches around. So I'm just going to do a few rows, and I'm going to show you what it looks like after a few rows. So I have just done another 6 rows of double crochet for where I'm where I stopped doing my increases. So that was my first round. That was doing 2 stitches in every row, 1 double crochet in an increase, 2 double crochet in an increase, and 3 double crochet in increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's how it grows. So it won't get any wider than that. It'll just grow in length now. So I'll do a few more rows, and then there you have a beanie, and you can just finish off with, say, a single crochet round. So 1 single crochet in every stitch. If you want it to be slouchy, you would just keep growing it to the length you want. I'm not going to do a brim on this particular tutorial because this is just very basic, no pattern, just get some yarn on your hook and get going. So I've just done a couple more rows and you can see that it's still growing nicely. Now, if that was the measurement that you needed, and I'm going to measure from where we did our beginning circle there to here, we're about 6.5 inches. And so for an example, just to finish off, I'd like to just show you how we can do just a single crochet row around, just to finish that off, just a preference. So I've joined, I'm going to chain 1. Now I am going to go back into the same stitch here for this row and do a single crochet. And I'm going to put my stitch marker in because you know that it always looks like it's a bit to the side. And a single crochet is just no yarning over, just straight under the loop, pull your yarn up and bring your yarn through. So straight under the V into that stitch, you grab your yarn, bring that up, 2 loops on your hook, and you're just going to bring that through. So in, now this will tighten up the brim slightly. Just be mindful that you don't go too tight when you're making these single crochets. Oops. And again, check when you finish. You should always have 60 stitches all the way around because that was where we finished our increasing, was to 60 stitches. So if you're just making this hat for yourself, just pop it on. You can measure your own head to start, see what the circumference is. Adults anywhere from 20 inches upwards. I've got a small head, so I can get away with pretty much a 19 or 20 inch size hat. If you've got dreads, or you want to put a lot of hair under, you can make it a bigger circumference to allow for that. And just remember, this is really basic. It's just using, well, now I've introduced a second stitch, but you can just make yourself a hat using a double crochet. That's how great crochet is. Once you learn the double crochet, you can do hats and scarves and all sorts of things, blankets. Okay, I've just come to my end here, and double crochet works up quicker than single crochet. And working up, I mean like, the distance from the beginning to the end. If you've got single crochet, you probably only get 2 rows to that one. So you'll have to do more single crochet rows than double crochet rows. So I've come to the end, and I know that that was my first stitch. And if you're always unsure, you sort of think, oh, is that the one to go into there? So it's always 1, 2, and then in to the stitch. And I'm just going to pull through, and I'm just going to show you how you can finish off and weave those ends in. So just pull up a loop so you've got enough to sew through. I always have a bit longer because there's nothing worse than having not enough yarn to weave your ends in. So you get your needle, thread that through. I just go through that stitch to bring that through, and it sort of pulls the knot under. Again, you know, there's lots of different techniques of doing that. And you can either go back and forwards along here or up and down a stitch, but we're just going to get our needle and thread that through a few stitches and pull that through. And not too tight here because you don't want to misshape an edge here and make it too obvious. So now I just sort of wrap that over my finger, and I'm going to go back weaving in a couple of times, back and forth here. And be mindful not to go through too far because then you'll see the stitch on that side. And just weaving it in and out and trying to catch some other, actually go through the yarn rather than just through a space. And then once you've gone through a few times, carefully trim that off as close as you can because you don't want to cut your project you've just made. And same with the inside ring, the first one. I always leave that so I know front to back, inside out to right side from wrong side. I guess it doesn't really matter. After a while you get to see that it looks a bit different. So I'm just going to go in through where I came. Just give it a bit of a pull. And I'm going to go under a few stitches this way. Weave that through, and then back again. Through a couple. And back through. And that should be enough, you know, put it in the wash. It's not going to unravel. You're not going to have it unraveling while you're wearing it. So that's a reasonable size little beanie. As I said, if you're an adult, you'll probably want that a little bit longer. And basically using all those same rules about yarn and things, I made this hat yesterday. So it's a wool acrylic mix. Obviously, you know, I can use a multicolored yarn because I'm more aware of where my stitches are, and this would be really frustrated to start to try and count stitches. And I used a 5mm hook, and let me see. Again, I only did up to 60 stitches when I made this one, so exactly the same as the one I've just shown you. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 rows to get that length. And this is one option for to making a brim, and this is called doing crocheting around the post of the previous stitch that we've done, a front post and back post, and I will put a little tutorial up about that at some stage. And then I have finished off just with a single crochet row around there just to neaten it off, but you don't need to. And this actually fits a small adult. That fits me, but it probably also fit a 5-year-old. So again, if you're just doing it for yourself, you know what size your head is, or you can, you know, measure it for your child or for a friend. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.